Good evening, Super League fans, and welcome to what is probably going to be a very exciting round 24 of the Super League. 3 rounds to go, and as we can see here from the table, it's all still to play for in terms of at least some things. So all is perhaps stretching it a little bit. There's still the playoffs to be decided. There's still, I would say, second place still to be decided. In theory, Kieran is not guaranteed first place quite yet, but it can't be far off, and with the amount of goals that he's been scoring compared to everyone else, I mean leaking as well, but but ultimately he's really piling on the pressure on the chasing pack, and they have all more or less kind of slipped up recently. Bolton very recently archly picking up form again after having a poor second half of the season, and Midlothian desperately searching for some kind of form going into the playoffs. Valen not doing too badly after a poor run, and Panathinaikos starting to find a little bit of form as well. But hot on their heels is Chudley Cannons to some extent. Astra, Dragons still theoretically in it, Sloths perhaps, but we are being very theoretical down here. We've got Hoddesdon, BTEC, and ultimately Hools and Swindon down at the bottom. Swindon, of course, looking to pick up at least 6 points in the last couple of games and see if they can get off the bottom. We'll start the evening with a quick review of the results from last time out. We had RC Celtic that had that impressive 1-0 win at home against Bolton Phoenix. Maybe not a dominant performance. In fact, maybe a bit of a champing according to some, but yeah, it was a good result for Arsenal nonetheless, and they are up to third and only 3 points behind Bolton, which is quite spectacular considering how long of a poor run Arsenal were on and how much of a good run Bolton had. But I guess it's a kind of reverse of the fortunes of the two half of the seasons for the two sides. BTEC, who had found a little bit of form recently, had a poor result and then bounced back. It's a good result for them against Hooligans, who, unfortunately for them, are now finding themselves really towards the bottom of the table. We have a Chudley Cannon side who really had an opportunity to continue to pile the pressure on Panathinaikos in that race for sixth, but they failed to get 3 points against Hoddesdon Hornets, who under Craig's guidance have had a bit of a rough season. They've struggled for goals for a long time. I think 23, I think a goal a game. I think only Swindon Devils have scored less all season. It's not been the greatest season for Hornets, but we'll see what they can come up with next year. They were obviously very close to the playoffs in the previous season, but haven't really replicated that. We had Dragons, who are having an entertaining end to the season. They beat Astra Athletic 3-2. Astra, who are another side who were in with a chance of the playoffs, but good run for Alp's side, but just struggling a tiny bit here towards the end. I think it's like 4 or 5 games in a row now without any kind of like meaningful big progress being made. But we'll see if Astra can bounce back tonight and stay in contention for the last spot. They are 4 points behind Panathinaikos, obviously. Panathinaikos, who did a number on Midlothian last time out, 2-0 winners away from home. Midlothian, obviously under the under the management of the assistant, and that did not go particularly well. So it'll probably be a while before we see him in charge again. And last but not least, Valen United ultimately found some form, found some goals. It was against Swindon Devils, but it was solely needed for Valen. They were in a little bit of a danger of creeping very close to the teams below them. Had they not won this one, they would have been in sixth on 34 points. Obviously, only 2 points ahead of Chudley, which would have been a bit of a spectacular fall from grace from last year's finalists. So good for them that they picked up the 2 points and they stay in contention for this year. Let's have a look at what we've got coming up in terms of fixtures. Astra Athletic with a must-win against Ardsley Celtic. Ardsley Celtic are themselves in a bit of a must-win situation to keep the pressure up on Bolton for second. Bolton against Valen, again, must-win for Bolton to keep up the pace with Churchtown. Valen still far from guaranteed that spot, even if they are 5 points clear of Chudley. Could really do with another good result here. Hornets take on Churchtown. Churchtown in good form, doing well, beating Sloths last time out. I think, did I skip that somehow? Either way, Churchtown beat Sloths last time out, and obviously looking at, with a late winner, I believe it was, and looking to extend that lead at the top of the table. It could theoretically secure it tonight if Bolton fail to win and Churchtown pick up all 3 points. They'll be 8 points clear with only with only 6 to play for. So Churchtown could be crowned league champions, or sort of regular season champions, if you want to call it that, tonight. We've got Midlothian, who, I mean, they're not in danger really. 6 points clear, should be fine. The goal difference isn't too bad either, but I mean, they want to be in a good position for the playoffs, and currently they aren't. So we'll see what they can come up with tonight. Regular management has been resumed and is back in charge. So Ian is setting out the team tonight. We've got Palmouth and Icos against Dragons, probably the most important game of the evening. Palmouth and Icos picking up 3 points here, putting themselves in a very, very good position for staying in the playoffs. But they're hot on their heels are Chudley, obviously, who we will see as well. They're at Swindon. Swindon, who need the points to get off the bottom. Chudley need them definitely to keep up with Palmouth and Icos, or even get into those playoff spaces if Palmouth and Icos falter tonight. The problem for Chudley is that Palmouth and Icos obviously have that great goal difference, 38-6 scored to 27 conceded, +9. Chudley currently sitting on -3, so that's going to hamper their chances, and it does mean that they will probably have to go at least a point clear of Palmouth and Icos in order to get that spot. So effectively a 4-point difference, even though it's only 3 on paper. The last game is Sloths against Hooligans. Sloths, yeah, I mean, they're obviously much improved on last season. Yeah, much improved on last season. I think that's fair to say. Certainly had a lot better results, a lot less defeats. Yeah, it's Rob's working wonders in his own weird and wonderful way. Where some of the faces that we've seen down there and in Somerset, yeah, Somerset, they obviously surprised a lot of people. He's got people playing on the other side to what they expect. Piver got a couple of games, even though that was mainly probably the chairman's fault. But he managed to pick up another couple of goals. So it's been interesting. And Hooligans, unfortunately for Thiago, has not found any kind of form this season defensively. They've not been strong enough, and although they have scored 31 goals, I believe it is, which is sort of on par with the likes of Astra, even Ardsley and Midlothian are roughly in that area, conceding 44 and just not picking up the required wins. 7 wins from 23, same as BTEC. Is not. Yeah, it's not gonna do them any favors in the long run, but we'll see. We'll see what Hooligans can do here towards the end of the season in terms of picking up a couple of points and if they can move up the table a little bit. Yeah, technical issues, of course, as usual. Hence why I'm not showing you what happened in the last game. First of all, because I can't, and second of all, because if I did try, it would probably crash the game. So again, apologies for the lack of detail in the actual introduction, but driven by the by the limitations of the system. In the same way that we're not entirely sure what will come up first in terms of fixtures. So we will start off actually with an interesting one. So we've got Swindon Devils at home against the Chudley Cannons. Let me just fairly quickly double check. I believe that all the changes are in place. If not, then I do apologize in advance. But I'm relatively sure that everything has been done. It certainly looks like it. We obviously have to go through this little thing as usual. I'm kind of looking forward to that not happening anymore. Not yet confirmed what will happen for next season, obviously, as mentioned. Still a bit of an existential crisis in the Super League, but we'll get there definitely. We obviously have a number of good people involved, and many thanks to Ryan for putting big squad lists together and everything, and we will get back to that obviously as soon as we can. But let's get the season out of the way first. Swindon Devils, a number of changes for them. We've got Carroll in goal. We've got Ebiadi on the right hand side. Oliveira plays. Holland plays. Liverpoulos and Ronaldo up front. Yeah, a bunch of new faces, and obviously going for it here towards the end, trying to get a few fresh faces in and get them some game time. Elmanda, unfortunately for him, broke his leg, I think, at the last game, so that will be him out for the season. But let's see if Swindon can pick up 3 points here. It'll obviously be very good for them and for the manager's morale and for the morale of the team in general and the fans and everything. But Chudley are on the hunt, and they have gone narrow tonight. So they've taken Bauma off the wing and put him into the centre, along with Mark Kerr and Mark van Bommel, who's moved back to a DMC role. Liverani comes into that MC role instead of van Bommel, who's been doing quite well there recently. And then he's relying on his front three of Rossini's there as well, but he hardly counts this season. Estebaria, Lee Chun-so, and Shaq are the 3 guys that Scott has gone with up front. in search of goals. I mean, that was kind of what brought him down last time out against the Hornets. They really should have they really should have had 3 points in that one to keep the pressure up on Panathinaikos, but they didn't. So we'll see. We'll kick this one off, and we'll see if Chudley can find the goals, or if the Swindon I won't say second string, but some of the less regular starters, if they will be proved too strong for Chudley here at the Lair. So let's kick this one off and see what happens. Lee Chun-so back. I think he was. I believe I'm not sure if he was rested or if he had picked up a slight knock or something like that. If that was why he wasn't playing the last time out, but obviously very important for Chudley Cannons that he's back. Probably edging towards being the top scorer, and there's even Rossini picking up goals now for Chudley. It's all going on for the Cannons here in the first half with that 2-0 lead already. New tactic working very, very well for him, getting that narrow formation. I believe he has looked at some of Swindon's previous results and spotted that they haven't done too well against the narrow formation in this new lineup. But we'll see if that holds true in the second half. Obviously, so far so good for the Cannons. So far so very good for the Cannons actually, and hmm, yeah, that could have gone better for Swindon Devils, to be completely honest. 0 shots on goal, 0 on target. Chudley completely dominating that first half. In terms of possession, they've not really had the most of it, Chudley. They've just done something with it. We have a look at the Swindon player stats. So Roy Carroll picking up a 9. Mendes is on a 5. Who else stands out? Montero, obviously, clearly the best player. He's on an 8. Everyone else is on a 6. They've hardly touched the ball, and what they have done with it has been pretty poor. I don't think the manager will be particularly pleased with that. Poor tackling, pass completion is not too bad, but apart from that, it's been it's been a bleak first half for the Devils. Yeah, one of the poorest performances, unfortunately. I'm not sure if if the changing of the guard or the changing of the squad was really beneficial. Certainly doesn't look like it. On the other hand, we have got Chudley Cannons putting in a really strong performance. Lee Chun-so, such an instrumental player for them. I think that's probably his 10th goal in 9th goal in 10 games or something like that anyway. Rossini last season's top scorer, obviously. If he's back in the goals, then that's very, very good news for Chudley. Liverani in that midfielder role, creating a bunch. Lee Chun-so the same, creating with 4 key passes, also being very, very creative. Estebaria getting an assist. In a slightly unusual position for him on the left hand side, but he's obviously doing well there. Very, very good player, a little bit flying under the radar from what I can hear in the kind of in the managers community, but I try to highlight his performances. Was very impressed with him at Churchtown last season, and he's obviously done a brilliant job at Chudley this season as well. He's had his ups and downs, his ins and outs, but very, very versatile and obviously a good player for them. Back to the game, and we'll kick off the second half, and we can see if there's any way back in this for Swindon Devils based on that first half performance. I would be surprised, but it's the Super League, so we can't rule them out. I mean, that's a good start. Zinedine Zidane with the early goal, back to 2-1. If they can keep that up, then keep that pressure up on Chudley, then maybe they can get back in it. Not sure what the manager said to his team at halftime. Nothing pleasant, I suspect, but. We'll see. We'll see if Chudley can get that third goal and put the game away. It was obviously a problem for them putting the game away against Hoddesdon Hornets, but there's Liverani from midfield, and that should settle some nerves in the Chudley camp. And we'll see what happens in the last 10 minutes. Will Swindon get a goal, or will Chudley see this one home? They obviously still have some young talent trying to impress the manager. Carlos Shacks being amongst them. But it's Baumer, of all people, who has been put into a more central role, who finishes it off, and it's 4-1 for Cannons. Obviously helping their goal difference. Still a little bit of too big of a gap to bridge up to Panathinaikos' goal difference, but every little helps, and they do have Astor chasing them as well. Astor, who has roughly the same goal difference as Chudley. So a good night's work for Chudley Cannons, definitely with this formation. Much better much better second half from Swindon Devils in terms of performance, but obviously the manager will just look at the result and think that this has gone terribly wrong, which to some extent it has. They did put a goal back. They didn't play too badly in the second half. Chudley had much less in terms of shots, but still obviously far outshot Swindon Devils, 21-16 overall. action zones again. Chudley had a little bit more of the possession in the second half, and did roughly the same with it, getting the 2 goals and shaking off the initial shock of that of that goal from Swindon just at the start of the second half. Let's have a look at the individual performances of the players. Pablo Montero doing it all by himself, 16 tackles, 10-1. Same headers as he had in the first half, but so no improvement there. But everyone playing up a little bit, perhaps a little bit generous in terms of the ratings considering the result. But Mark Vivian Foe, who's actually been doing quite well in that MC role, did not enjoy that. Did not enjoy being up against Lee Chun So in that particular position, I think. So he struggled, got a 6. Obviously, Sebastian Mendes as well, not having the greatest of times, and yeah, it's difficult to match your defensive lineup against your opponent's attacking lineup if you don't know what they're coming up with. I guess that's one of the issues with keeping fixed formations is that they can work really really well, but they can also of course be exploited, as we've seen here tonight. In terms of Charlie Cannon's an assist and a goal for Liverani, sees him picking up the man of the match. Estevaria getting the assist as we spoke about already. Kolashaks with the other one. Last goal appears to have been unassisted. Yeah, reasonable distribution in terms of the shots on target, and a great day's work for the Chudley boys. Mendes da Silva did okay, I guess, and Rocky Jr. down there in defense. Baumer with the goal, of course, as we spoke about. Mark Kerr a little bit less influential than he has been in recent games. Van Bommel doing a very very good job, good pass completion as well on a lot of these guys, and obviously Leachon so important for Chudley Cannons to have him back. Yeah, great result for Chudley. They moved to 35 points, equal on Palmington Icos. We'll see what they do later on tonight. Swindon Devils remain on 18, and they don't do their goal difference any favors, and they move level with Hooligans in terms of conceded goals. I think both teams on 44. Obviously, Hooligans still to play tonight. Next up, we have Midlothian against BTEC Troopers. Midlothian chasing Ardsley for third, theoretically still chasing Bolton for second as well, and BTEC obviously chasing points. So let's see how this one goes. Let's double check that the changes are in place. They definitely are. So that's good. We'll see how quickly we can get through this. Get the impression that this has not really improved, to be completely honest, the clicking. I was hoping that it would obviously reduce with time and database would somehow rebuild itself, but it doesn't appear to have been possible. Anyway, let's have a look at the Midlothian formation, the lineup. They've got Hetman and goal, Given still out injured, Hofland and Klomper at the back. Very strong pairing, obviously. Midlothian have conceded 33 goals, which is not amongst the best in the league, so I mean, they have good reputations and they have done okay, but there's just been a couple of slip-ups for them, I think. So they are, along with Ardsley, and obviously, I mean, Churchtown we can't really compare because they score so many, but they are sitting amongst the sort of Ardsley, Astor level of conceding goals, which is perhaps a little bit disappointing considering the players at their disposal. However, we have Roberto Carlos, we have Dulaj back on the wings with some good long arrows on them. Varlamov and Gattuso in the middle. They're obviously suffering from the loss of Steven Gerrard as well. I believe he's out for the rest of the season. His injury won't see him back before the finals. We've got Van der Vaart in the center of the park. We've got Archie back in the sole AMC role, which I think he's been slightly better at than as a 2. And then we've got Vieira and Mpensa forming that partnership up front. It'll be interesting to see if Midlothian can pick up some form before the playoffs. I think that's going to be very very important, especially for the 4 teams in those 36 places that will play the extra games. That they have the right form, they have the right mentality among the players to really push for it and to get those results. So we'll see how that works out for Midlothian. Very very good early on in the season. They've hit a bit of a bump now, and yeah, it seems that they're just struggling to get over that. In terms of BTEX, they've hit plenty of bumps in the road across the length of the season, and they continue to do so. However, last time out, good performance, 2-0 victory against Hooligans. They had some success with this, with playing these AML and AMR guys. We're not got Gomez out tonight, but Agahawa has been doing well. Say Roberto's obviously doing well. The rest of the players have been doing well, so maybe that's why they've been selected, just based on their performance rather than their reputation. They're still amongst the strongest players in the squad, but you could perhaps argue that Dan Nielsen could have played. He's been pretty okay this season, and Gomez had a half decent game, and he's obviously just joined the club, so you could have him in as well. Maybe put Akahawa instead of Dyer down in the midfield when he has that forward arrow, and then scrap Abel Savia. But that would be my only kind of sort of recommendation in terms of what I would have perhaps as a chairman had or as a manager would have done different. But we'll see how it works out. It's an interesting attacking lineup, and obviously up against the fullbacks with the two AMs on the wings there. We'll see if that works out for BTEC. Interesting experiment. Let's kick it off and see who wins in Edinburgh tonight. A couple of good early chances from both sides. Seeing a bit more of BTEC, I believe, than of Midlothian, and that's Emerson getting the opener for BTEC here. 1-0 for the 1-0 for the visitors. A little bit of a surprise considering the space between the two sides in the actual table. However, given Midlothian's current form, perhaps less so. Pizarro with a good chance there. Dyer with another chance. Yeah, plenty of chances for BTEC actually in that first half, and lots to get after for Midlothian in the second. Let's have a look at the stats. It's the night of the away side so far. BTEC dominating that first half, 10 shots, 8 on target. Midlothian with a single attempt. That's got to be a little bit concerning for the manager, considering that that a lot of the blame was put onto the assistant last week for the result. Doesn't seem to have gone very much better. BTEC really piling on the pressure here, controlling the possession, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Dulash and Roberto Carlos have had anything to say down those flanks. Really, that central spine of BTEC players just completely dominating, keeping it narrow, and then with the two AM, L, and R players probably maybe pressing those defenders and kind of eliminating that Y play that Midlothian could have had going forward. It'll be interesting to see how they performed. I mean, good passing for Dulash, but he's been kept very busy defensively. Roberto Carlos has not had a good first half at all. Christian Vieri, I'm not sure why they come up in this order. How people do their tactics, I have no idea. But there we go. It is, as you can see, they are in their correct positions. I don't know. I don't know. Either way, so if I sort of jump in between people, then we're just gonna have to kind of accept that. So we've got Gattuso. Yeah, I'm not sure what he's up to. He's obviously not really passing the ball, which is unfortunate because he's meant to be one of their main creative players. Varlamov doing okay with a 6, Van der Vaart with a 6. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's wrong for the pulverizer, but yeah, it's not gone particularly well for Midlothian, unfortunately, in that first half. Let's have a look at the BTEC. Yeah, not much better. It's a little bit of an unusual BTEC first half. We rarely see Alessandro Nesta picking up a 5. I mean, if ever. Good play from Emerson and Pizarro, though. The guys up front, they are doing well. I say up front. Again, it's another one with people in random positions, but I guess it makes sense to the manager. I won't dwell on it. Unassisted for Emerson. Good run from midfield and a good goal from him. Yeah, not much else to say to that, really. No one really stands out. A couple of key passes. Say Roberto obviously enjoying his left-hand side role. No key passes from Midlothian at all. Yeah, a strong call for BTEC, eliminating any kind of Midlothian opposition chances, anything in the first half. Let's see if that changes in the second. Obviously, Swindon had that very good start to their second half, and we'll see if Midlothian can replicate that. Otherwise, it's going to be tricky to get back into this one. Yeah, first 20-25 minutes, not a lot has happened. Oh, Shuk Dulaj with an own goal. Impenta pulls one back. This is going to be a desperate kind of rush for Midlothian in the last 5 minutes. Can they get an equalizer? They're definitely trying. No, they cannot. They simply fail to create enough chances to even put BTEC under pressure after Dulaj conceded that unfortunate own goal midway through the second half. Yeah, nothing. Unfortunately, nothing in terms of chances for Midlothian in the second half either. One shot, it went on target, but yeah, it wasn't enough. Yeah, one goal back, unfortunately. Plenty of free kicks related to offsides. There's obviously when you play with attacking players and the opponent is pulling a good offside trap like BTEC did here, then it can be difficult. Possession very evenly spread out, a little bit more play down in the Midlothian half. Quiet second half, kind of for BTEC, but they did get that goal obviously. 7 and 8 from Midlothian's players. I'm not entirely sure how that is technically possible. Only one key pass among them, Archie back with that. And yeah, not much else to say. Defensively, Gattuso did a pretty good job. He played himself more into it in the second half in terms of passes, but again, no key passes for him. Poor from Van der Vaart. He gets a 7, but he should really be doing more, I believe. Christian Vieri, okay, I guess, but not a single shot. Archie back, the only player with a shot on target here. I'm not sure what the individual instructions are for the players, but something has not fallen Midlothian's way tonight, and they remain on 38 points. Good news for Ardsley Bolton and those guys, and good news for Valen as well, as they and Palmouth and Icos as they look to try and overtake them. But I mean, Chudley are on 35, Palmeiras are on 35. There are 2 games to play. Midlothian are on 38. They don't have the best goal difference. It's down to 0 now, 35-35 I think. It's going to be an interesting couple of games that we've got there coming up for Midlothian here towards the end of the season. Good result for BTEC. That takes them up to 27 above Hoddesdon Hornets, at least for now. We're looking at the player performances. I mean, Abelsavia, who I suggested should have been dropped, obviously did a fantastic job. Alessandro Nesta played himself up in the second half. It seems to be working for them, this kind of spine with the two wingers. Although the wingers perhaps aren't doing that much, the the structure for the rest of the team seems to be really beneficial. Palermo and Pizarro struggling a little bit, but you know the defenders in the league are so strong. It's always going to be a bit of a struggle unless you have a good game or you are really top tier. Then then it can be a bit of an issue for the strikers, obviously, to deliver. Buffon picking up a 7 despite conceding the only shot that Midlothian had on goal, which is interesting. And perhaps surprising that they didn't have more actually in terms of goals, considering all the key passes that they had and all the chances that was split out across the team. Either way, good result for BTEC Troopers. As mentioned, they go on 27 points. Midlothian stay on 38. This is going to be interesting now because now we have Panathinaikos who can potentially go above Midlothian in the table because they have a much better goal difference. So if they win this one, they will temporarily jump to 4th. However, they are up against a Dragon Destroyer side who have not been rolling over recently. I believe the changes are made for Udez is back in, so that should be a change. I will have to double check. Udeza comes in for Pope, Melchett does something. Pope for Melchett on the bench. Yep, so that has been updated. That's good. So Panathinaikos, a couple of changes for them. Dragon Destroyers, I believe some Rustico comes in or something like that. Something happens and then Curtis comes in defense. That's right. Anyway, as I was saying, Dragon Destroyers. Such a tough team to predict. They beat Astro Athletic 3-2 last time out. They've had a couple of high-scoring games recently, and obviously they have those players who are kind of like not goal machines, but they can explode. If Giggs gets his assists flowing, if Widuka, who scored a couple recently, gets gets in the mood, who knows what can happen? And Brosek, who's had a bit of a quiet period recently as well. I mean, I think he's had a couple of goals, but nothing like he did at the start of the season. If he gets back into shape, then who knows what Dragons can deliver on their day. But let's kick this game off and see if Panathinaikos can close the gap on the teams in front of them, or if Dragons will prove too strong, on which they can't against anyone on their day, obviously. A good early start for Panathinaikos, a couple of chances for them. Joe Cole trying to get involved there. Nedved as well. Trying my hardest not to say that he's their best player, but we'll see. We'll see what he does tonight. Pavel, 0-0, a bit of a A bit of a nervous affair. Sally Hamages had scored a goal. Oh, Viduka's out. Okay, so we'll pop Owen on instead. Viduka Sally Hamages scored, but the goal was ruled out. I think it was even Nedved who'd strayed offside. We'll see what Owen can come in and do here, if anything, in the second half. Yeah, Panathinaikos dominating in terms of having the chances. 7 shots, 5 on target against Dragons 1 and 0. Possession-wise, it's Dragons who have it, but they are failing to get it down into the Panathinaikos half. That's probably Giggs. He often has some poor first half performances, but he can obviously turn things around in the second, as we have seen recently. Panathinaikos, Udesi came in. He's not really done that much other than injuring Mark Viduka maybe. Everyone else is on a 7. Quite a few key passes. Everyone doing a pretty decent job. Joe Cole, no fitness concerns for any of the players. Ambrosini is the lowest on 91, and yeah, good percentages in terms of the tackles, the heading. It's just about getting that goal, and obviously the Dragons keeper has been keeping them at bay so far. Carini with his 8. Yeah, good performance from him. We've got Michael Owen who came in and still on a 6. Brosix on a 6. Giggs is on a 7. No key passes from him yet. Not as great in the tackles. Rusticus obviously doing okay. Pamodukar not had the best start to his Dragon Destroyer's career. There's Tomasi as well. Robbie Keane only on a 6. There's lots of room for improvements in the second half on that Dragon side, so that's maybe what Panathinaikos needs to be worried about. But they have themselves just, 1 or 2 conversions away from being in a solid lead here, and very, very dominant in the tackle Panathinaikos here at the Kennels. Let's see what happens in the second half if Owen can come in and do a job on Panathinaikos replacing Viduka, or if he'll continue to be the player that no one really wants, because he never really does anything. It's Joe Cole. Oh, Joe Cole, and it's disallowed. It's the second disallowed goal for Panathinaikos of the game. Sally Hamidic obviously with that one in the first half. And a penalty claim turned down. It does look as if things are conspiring against Panathinaikos. Wouldn't surprise anyone to see a Dragon Destroyer sucker punching them here in the second half after 2 goals disallowed and a penalty claim turned down. Yeah, I mean, there is Brosek. He does pop up now and again. You do see his name, and perhaps just a question of time before he does something with it. But it's still Panathinaikos creating the chances. And finally, a goal that hasn't been disallowed is Joe Cole, who's recently found a bit of favor with his manager. Will that be enough to see them through till the end? It certainly looks like it. Yes, it is. Panathinaikos, a very, very important 3 points for them. They overtake Midlothian in the table, and unfortunate for Dragons, that I think eliminates all kind of mathematical chances for a playoff spot for them this season. Continued strong performance from Panathinaikos in the second half, as mentioned, very unlucky. 2 goals turned down, 1 penalty denied, and ultimately Joe Cole finally getting the breakthrough and securing them the 3 points this evening. Not great news for Chudley Cannons and for Astor, obviously, to see that. So they have to wait another week to keep up the pressure, or they have to keep up the pressure for another week in order to see if they can find a space in that top 6. But good result for Panathinaikos here. If you look at the home side, very, very strong performance across the board from everyone. Pretty much the same as in the first half. Good play down the wings. For some reason, Udais is getting a 6. I mean, that's not bad. It's strange he's got a 6 for that. But anyway, doesn't seem that much different than anyone else. However, Cannavaro with a dominant tackling display, was that really? Yeah, that kept up in the second half. Not quite as dominant, but still pretty cool there. Headers one, obviously, with Duka going off and Owen coming on. That was never going to improve for the Dragons. We do have a half-decent performance from Ebisand, but obviously nowhere near his form of last season. Joe Cole's goal was unassisted, but plenty of key passes. So a good, strong performance from Panathinaikos. I think the manager will be happy with what his team has done, and probably keep it similar for next week. Just hoping that they can be a little bit more clinical. A shame for Dragons. Carini gets a 10 on man of the match. Robbie Keane picks up a 5. It's the story of the season for Dragons. It's hit and miss and individual performances. Carini has a good game. The Strikers have a poor game. The Strikers have a good game. Carini has a poor game. Giggs doesn't get any assists, or it's so up and down. It's so unpredictable for the Dragons, and that is really their downfall this season, unfortunately. Well, anyway, I mean, we look forward obviously to see Dragons in full flow next season. But yeah, that's mathematically that cleans out their their chances for this season. So a shame, but good to see Carini obviously being and a goalkeeper that can be relied on to some extent. I think there's some interesting things going to happen for the next season in terms of who picks who and what people are going to do with the draft, etc. Because we obviously have now very recent information on how a lot of players perform in the Super League, and that might be taken into consideration. Guys that might not be have been considered before will possibly be included. Carlos Shagley, Chun-So, players like that were never mentioned. You can imagine there's going to be a queue for those two young talents for the next season. And some of the goalkeepers who have been, called very reliable in the past have been proven not to do so. I'm thinking more of Bolton's keepers, Nick Matula and Casillas. He struggled with them and then had to bring in Rab Douglas. Does that mean we'll see Rab Douglas in as a starting keeper in the Super League from day one next season? We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that was a Panathinaikos victory. Important for Chris Mack that. And we move on with the league leaders. They are visiting Hoddesdon Hornets. I believe everything is as it should be. We've got Sylvester in, that's right. No captain though. Probably just go with Oliver Kahn. And Hornets, I believe Dunn is Pete's the guy that comes in. That also looks good. Get this one on the road. Hoddesdon Hornets kept that 0-0 with Chudley, or kept the clean sheet against Chudley last time out. Churchtown got that late winner against Sloths, and they're on 48 points. Can they reach 51? That's going to be interesting because it will more or less secure them with a goal difference of plus 18. I mean, I know Bolton's goal difference a little bit better, but I don't know. I don't see Churchtown losing the last couple of games. So if they can go 6 points clear tonight or more, then obviously depending on Bolton's results later, if they can go that clear, then they will, as mentioned, secure the regular season title. Hoddesdon Hornets mathematically out of it. They have got a bit of pride to play for. Obviously, they've got the opportunity to catch Dragons tonight. Sloths they can overtake as well. With BTEC having won, they want to win to keep in front of them. Tough challenge though for them facing Churchtown at home. Churchtown with 58 goals in 23 games, not quite at 3 goals a game as they were earlier this season, but definitely definitely a side to be reckoned with in terms of goal scoring. We'll see how it goes tonight. We'll see if Churchtown pick up any injuries. That's going to be a concern for the manager, obviously, going into to the postseason to the end of the season, the playoffs. But that's probably his biggest risk tonight in terms of that. A defeat wouldn't be a disaster, but obviously prefer to avoid that as well. And it's Barry Ferguson with the opener for Churchtown. And Van Nistelrooy quickly picking it up, and he's obviously hunting for that top scorer spot, Van Nistelrooy, and he's doing his best to get there. A bit of a struggle for Hoddesdon to get anything off the ground in this first half completely. Yeah, I mean it's not been the most riveting first half in terms of chances. Fairly even, but obviously the clinical finishing of Van Nistelrooy and the quality of Barry Ferguson shines through for Churchtown, and they secure a pretty comfortable 2-0 lead. Possession-wise, completely even, fairly evenly spread all over the pitch. I was going to say the same goes for actually the tackles and everything. It's just the clinical nature of the Churchtown team. Unfortunately for Hoddesdon Hornets, Frey with the 2 shots unable to stop any of them. David Dunn is in central midfield and not doing a brilliant job either. He's up against Barry Ferguson, obviously too much for him, unfortunately. Gareth Southgate has done a pretty decent job. Lutzscher as well at the back, although they've not prevented Churchtown from having 2 good chances. Even Helguera has come in. It's not someone that people speak too highly of, but he's actually doing a fairly reasonable job for Hornets. Apart from that, not really much to mention. Tristan with a good pass, but failing to really create anything. Stilian Petrov, the captain, with a shot on goal. I think that's pretty much all there is to say about that. Churchtown, on the other hand, solid 7s across the board. John Wells not doing too much out on that left-hand side, but defense is pretty solid. Midfield is pretty solid. Edgar Davids and Soroczynski obviously putting in a good shift. We've got Ari and Robin, who's not been super dominant. He is still very young, but at least that's him picking up an assist. Van Nistelrooy, unsurprisingly, amongst the scorers, and Barry Ferguson, yeah, a scorer as well. Occasionally he does do that. More used to seeing him in the provider role, but yet again, if you're going to look at combined figures at the end of the season, with in terms of assists and goals, Barry Ferguson very likely to be up there. I know that Patrick Vieira was going to be was the kind of lottery key player last season. I mean, he's obviously leading the charge in terms of average rating for this season as well. But we can't underestimate Barry Ferguson in terms of his performances and his importance for the teams that he plays for. Second half, let's see if Hoddesdon Hornets can find a way back into this. They're going to need an early goal. Otherwise, there could be Van Nistelrooy things happening, which will obviously put some problems in front of Hoddesdon that they might find too difficult to overcome in this second half. There is the early goal. It's Tigalco with that. We've not seen too much of him this season, obviously, but good to see him in amongst the goals. And Gabriel Batistuta as well. It's kind of Churchtown replicating Hoddesdon's performance here in the second half, and allowing them too many chances, and poor goalkeeping displays is obviously getting them the goals. It looks as if, I was going to say Churchtown were going to get back into it, but they are not at all. It's Batistuta who picks up his second of the night. A bit of a surprise result here on the cards, perhaps. A very poor performance from Churchtown after that dominant, well, I say dominant, apart from that dominant 2-0 lead, even if the display wasn't as dominant. But it's been all about the Hornets in the second half. And to add insult to injury, Silvestre finishes the game off by scoring an own goal, and Churchtown moved to 44 conceded for the season, equal with 60 scored and 44 conceded. I mean, they're definitely not a boring side to watch. If you want to get the neutrals onto the Super League, then tell them to watch Churchtown. Something is always happening. An atrocious goalkeeping performance. 4 shots on target in the second half for Hoddesdon Hornets. Well, 3 actually, and all of them went in. How does this work again? They had 4 shots on target, 3 of them went in, and then Silvestre scored the own goal. Yeah, so still a very strong, still a conversion rate of 75%, and Sebastian Frey obviously picks up a couple of saves in the second half. They had us in the second half completely went to the Hornets, and it's a it's a sad sight to see, to be honest, for Churchtown, how that second half panned out. Tigalco getting the Man of the Match awards. They have 4 goals and not a single assist. Let's see if this... Oh, that was a bit of a risk, actually. 4 goals and not a single assist. What's going on here? Silvestre slide tackle Batistuta. Tigalco with a loose ball. A rebound for Batistuta. And finally... Tigalco slide tackles Orchinski, but Batistuta slipped the ball past 2. Okay, I mean, that's maybe a bit harsh not to give assists on any of them, but fair enough. Good game for Batistuta, good game for Tigalco, good game for everyone in that Hornet side, or at least a good second half. Surprising, but impressive nonetheless. Let's see what 4 for Oliver Kahn. That's that's not what you like to see. He's actually not been too bad for Churchtown. He's not been the best. Let's 7-18. Okay, he's not been the best. But has he been the worst? I don't know. It seems harsh on Churchtown to have 3 shots against him, concede all 3, have another shot that he somehow saves, and then Silvestre scores an own goal. Silvestre, who came in from Aldini as well, he gets a 6 for his troubles. John Wells didn't do much nothing happened really in the second half at Churchtown at all. They were passengers, they were spectators, they didn't do anything. Not sure what happened. Obviously, confidence completely dropped after Oliver Kahn. Maybe they saw what Oliver Kahn was doing and went, nah, he's having one of those days, we'll just leave it. It keeps it exciting at the top of the table. Obviously, that means that Bolton and in theory Ardsley are still in with a chance of catching Churchtown. Kieran will not like this. Kieran will not like this at all. He will not like that goalkeeping performance going into the playoffs. These are risks that you just can't accept, that you have to do something about to mitigate, because it could cost you. It could cost you if you have a goalkeeping display like that. I think we saw it last season with Midlothian, who had a keeper sent off and some of them, another guy came in. Was it Hetman that came in for Given and completely messed things up? Not entirely sure what happened there, but there was something to that effect. So it can be very, very costly to not have some kind of stability on amongst your keepers. Either way, good result for the Hornets. And we move on to Bolton Phoenix against Valen United. A clash here at the, believe at the top of the table. Let's double check who Ryan's wants as his captain, because it's not Gary Neville. Obviously, Gary Neville's on the bench. So bear with me a second while we confirm that. Apart from that, Raul and Kuhl are swapping sides. I'm not sure what the logic is, but I'm sure there is one. Apart from that, it's the same Raul as captain. It's the same back line with Kehl, Dacour, Sinoni out on that right hand side. Sambrotto obviously out, if not for the season, then at least for pretty much the season. I can't remember exactly how long he's out for. Montella in with amongst the goals again, although failing last time out, but still very much in the running for the top scorer of the season award with 15 goals in 19 games and a good average as well there. So pretty good performance from Montella. We'll see what they can do against Valen United tonight. Obviously repeat of last season's final, with the sides going at it here. We have got a let's move on to the actual game. Yep, that's all done as well, I believe. Yep, move on to the game as well. So will it be a repeat of the final last year? Valen notoriously finding it difficult to score against Bolton, and that obviously cost them last season. We've already had a quick look at this. We'll have a look at the Valen. So Reed, as Andreas put it, rewarded for his performances with a place on the bench. So Reed goes to the bench. Zaha comes in for Saviola. Toldo's back in goal for Peter Cech. That's who they're going with for this one. Yeah, last season's final was obviously such a tactical battle, and in the end Bolton just won out, and Valen had struggled to score against Bolton on several occasions. So we'll see if that continues to be the case tonight. Obviously found a little bit of form with the 2 goals last time out, but we'll see how they do tonight. Valen United definitely need the 3 points, with Panathinaikos winning, with Chudley winning. It's only Midlothian who weren't winning so far. We've obviously still got Arsenal to come and Astor to play as well. It's an important time. It's an important time for those teams, not only to stay in the playoffs, but obviously to make sure you secure as good a spot as well, get some home advantage in the first game, or however it works out. But let's see what Bolton and Valen can produce for us tonight. I'm not sure they've always been classics in terms of goals, but we could perhaps see some tactical battles or something like that to speak about with the it's Lasisi of all people. Valen, famous for not scoring against Bolton, and a central defender takes an early chance and puts them 1-0 ahead. It has been a lot of Bolton Phoenix though in terms of creating chances, so they could perhaps be in with a good chance of getting an equalizer before half time. Dede's shown a lot of skill down that left hand side. He's up against Cafu, so it's not going to be easy for him, but he has done pretty well. So I mean, it's not a classic. It's 2 very, very, very strong sides with a history of some tight games. Valen just about edging that first half in terms of the results, even if Bolton are just about edging in terms of shots, in terms of passes completed. But you can see how even it is. Let's have a look at the action zones here again. Just a little bit of possession in Bolton's favour. In terms of where the balls have been played, it's pretty much sort of like even across the pitch. If we look at the Bolton stats, there are actually key passes being completed. There are some good tackles and headers being put in. Sort of a scattering of chances across the front players that you want to have the chances. Montella, Kuhl, Baron, Raul. That there's nothing really going wrong. It's just that tough of a game. Yep, Stam is in there doing a good job in the defense next to West Brown. Good pass completion for the central defenders as well. There's nothing really bad about the performance. It's just a very, very, very tough game, obviously, and chances have been few and far between. And with 2 good keepers, then it's going to be difficult. Valen's performance, again. kind of decent across the board, I guess. Cafu surprisingly down on a 6. Dede doing a good job up against him. Roy Keane winning 5 tackles in the centre of midfield there, very important for him obviously to dominate that area. Jens Jeremy's another defensive player in midfield for Valen United, again with a good display from him, but not so good in the air, but good everywhere else. Totti has had a couple of shots. Nakata is the guy who came up with the assist for Lasisi, obviously, who's put Valen in front. Yeah, it's not spectacular, but it's interesting nonetheless, and it's a very, very interesting tactical battle with those the fullbacks Dede and Senoni. Apologies, with Dede and Senoni. Senoni struggling a little bit up against Lisa Rasu. Dede having a much better time down the left-hand side. If we look at their opponents on the other side, Lisa Rasu has had 2 key passes and done a little bit better. Cafu struggling a little bit. So what will happen in the second half? Will it be decided down on the wings, or will they continue to sort of equal each other out, and we will maybe see some action down the middle? Let's have a look and see if top scorer Montella can do something, or if Valen can continue to keep him under control. Toldo with a good save there. They cannot. It's Montella with the goal. It was coming, to be honest, at the beginning of the second half. They did have the best of the chances, Bolton Phoenix. We'll see if Valen can find a way back into this. They used to have a reputation as a second half team and save their best performances for last. It's Jens Jeremy's, of all people, from midfield. A second goal for Valen now. And Bolton Phoenix, just with a couple of minutes left, they really need to get in amongst the chances now if they're going to score. Dakur with a yellow card, it goes up the other end, and it's Shevchenko who puts the nail in the coffin for Bolton Phoenix. And Valen United get revenge for that final loss last season. They pick up the 3 points, and they keep their position in the very top half of the table, and their position in the playoffs. Good results tonight for Valen, for Panathinaikos, for Chudley. It's really up to Ardsley now to see if they can keep up the pressure as well. I mean, they are on 40 points, so probably out of the danger zones in terms of dropping out of the playoffs, but they're mathematically not safe if they stay on 40. And obviously Hodgie will be interested to getting that red tick. Again, equal second half. Bolton Phoenix definitely had the best of the first part of the second half. Valen then picked it up in the latter parts of the match, and ultimately got the goals that brought them the victory. Performance-wise, is fairly even. A little bit in Valen's favour, perhaps a little bit generous in terms of the goals, but we'll see. It could be a Rab Douglas thing. We'll see that in a second. Fairly even distribution, less clinical for Bolton Phoenix. Are they missing Sambrota that much? Does it matter that Senoni is out on that side and not in the centre of the park? I mean, obviously Bolton Phoenix are one of those sides, along with BTEC, who decided to gamble a little bit in terms of the squad size. So that's perhaps not gone as well as it could have done. Let's have a look at the individual performances of the players. Harry Kuehl and Raul, that didn't seem to work out particularly well, that swap of those two guys. Yab Stam did a pretty decent job. Rab Douglas is not getting too much of a hard time there. Sinoni struggling up against Lisa Rasu. Unfortunate for him. It was Oliver Dacour who got the assist. He's been very, very good, especially in the second half of the season. Very dominant performance from him in defensive midfield. Barong a little bit disappointing. Sebastian Kehl as well. I mean, he's not the best, but he's kind of coming in and covering again as Sambrota is out. The AMC roles, yeah, I mean, they have been very strong, Bolton. They obviously already qualified. That could obviously be part of it as well. But 3 goals conceded from a side that's conceding on average less than a goal a game. That's a little bit concerning, especially considering that they lost to Ardsley last time out as well. That's not the kind of form that you want to take into the last 6. Yeah, I mean, good news for Churchtown in the way that they're still 5 points ahead of Bolton, I guess, and good news for Valen, as mentioned. They are now on 40 points above Midlothian in the table. So yeah, good news for the Swedes as they look to repeat their performance from last season and make the final. Will Bolton make the grand final as well? Yeah, well, we'll see. They're going to have to turn things around a little bit. Not great to lose comprehensively to your rivals at this stage of the season. Francesco Toldo, man of the match for Valen. A little bit surprising, perhaps. I mean, there's a lot of good performances in there, but I guess with with Nakata and Roy Keane picking up a couple of assists but not doing much else, that's keeping them a little bit low in terms of the overall average rating. Cafu really struggling up against Day, but it didn't really. I mean, very very rare for us to see a 6 from him. Less rare to see a 6 from Totti, but you know he's still in there. He's still firing in the shots. Shevchenko gets a goal. That's important for him. He's on what 14 now for the season. Very close to Montella, who I think if as a neutral you were watching it, you'd say Montella has had a much better season, but he's only 1 or 2 goals behind him, so it's not too bad for Shevchenko either. Jens Jeremy is doing a brilliant job in that central midfield role, and 9 for him and a goal. Nakata as well, and Keane as mentioned with the assists and a good solid defensive display. Lasisi somehow not. Oh well, he hasn't got anyone to mark, I guess, so he left that to Ayala and then obviously popped up with a goal, so good for him. Yeah, interesting for Valley United now. They've got 2 wins on the trot. If they can continue that form, then you have to say that they're back in contention. They've had a couple of issues, but they seems to have been ironed out in terms of the squad and the morale. And yeah, if he can get the guys performing, Jeremy is playing well in central midfield, you know, then who knows? And Toldo obviously doing a good job. Maybe Valen could be back in that final. Anyway, moving on to Sloths against Hooligans. So a couple of changes, I believe, that were made here. Yeah, Deco, that's definitely done. And in terms of Sloths, we have done the changes as well, because that's the 2 suspended players that we've changed. So let's have a look at that in a second once we get to the match. So this is obviously a bottom of the table class. It's 10th versus 11th at the start of the evening. I mean, there's a lot of pride at stake for the clubs down here, and obviously they want to do well and impress people, so that you know that they can that they don't get written off by the beginning of next season. You know, both as managers but also as people. You know, you don't want people to think that you're just cannon fodder or here to make up the numbers. You wanna say that, you know, my team is here. We can do something. So it'll be interesting to see what Sloths and Hools put on tonight in terms of a display. If nothing else, then hopefully it'll be a good one for the neutrals, a couple of good goals. Kessman and Crespo, the striking partnership for Sloths that so nearly got that result last time out against Churchtown. A couple of enforced changes due to Simeone being suspended and another chap, I forget his name. But yeah, Duff, Solis. Oh, it's him, isn't it? It's the guy on the right hand side. Solari, something like that. Either way, is the other suspended player. So those are the 2 changes for Sloths. D'Alessandro, who a little bit surprising actually that he didn't go with maybe Kaka in there, considering that D'Alessandro got moved out to the right hand side if I remember rightly, and had a pretty good game last time out. But we'll see. Solis could come in and obviously do a job on that side as well. Patsatsoglu, Van Bronckhorst and Carrick in that DMC role, a DMC line, which has now been reorganized according to the wishes of the viewing community. I believe there was some people questioning the actual distribution of those 3 across that back line. Yeah, but there's not much else to say to that. Taibbi's been one of the good keepers this season as well, someone that people might want to consider for next season. Very strong. I think he's been overall for Sloths, if I'm not mistaken, 772, only conceded 23 and 18. Definitely a good keeper there. Hooligans, yeah, I mean, there's not really much we can say about it. 3 solid at the back, half decent keeper. Olise and Emerton, not bad players. Kennedy, he's keeping faith in Kennedy. Deco's come in, and Dudu's come in up front. Santa Cruz, Ronaldinho, again, good side. If they deliver on that day, absolutely brilliant. If not, then like last time out, 2-0 defeat at BTEC. It could all be so much better for Hooligans, I think, and it's a bit of a shame, but we'll see what they can do against Sloths tonight. Obviously, if Rob has set his side up for success, or if the changes that Thiago has made will prove the difference. It'll be interesting to see what Deco can do. Actually, we don't see much of Deco at all. Perhaps for good reason. We're about to find out. Couple of good chances from either side, although I do believe Sloths have slightly edged it so far. Yeah, a good play from Duff. Seen his name up a couple of times down on that left-hand side, trying to create something. It's going to be a yellow card for Carrick for pulling a shirt there, I think. Sol is now on the other flank, obviously up against the very narrow formation of the Hooligans, which which hasn't always proven so successful in the Super League. But they can create chances, and they are creating chances. Ronaldinho with a couple of good shots in the first half for Hooligans, but not yeah, well, I say a couple, maybe it was only one. Not the best first half, to be honest. As mentioned, managers trying to make a good name for themselves, show that they can be a force to be reckoned with. It's not really happening so far tonight. Yeah, even an even first half. That's probably sums it up. Poor-ish performance across the board, unfortunately. Many players. When was the last time we had a penalty? Actually, it's been ages since we had a penalty. I just thought of that. Oh, anyway, yeah, not the best first half from any of these guys. Damien Duff with a couple of good passes, and Yaya had one as well. Damien Duff has had the shots as well. It's difficult when you've got guys like Crespo and Kessman and they don't deliver. It's got to be frustrating as a manager to see that. But it's been a quiet first half for the Sloth side. Same down the other end. A good first half performance from Walter Samuel, Brett Emerton, who continue to surprise me in terms of how awful he's been playing, considering how he's hyped up as the assist maker and best dead ball keep taker and all this stuff. He's been atrocious. Sunday Olise, I mean, Deco's coming in doing okay. He's not seen much of the ball. Rocket Santa Cruz had a good pass. That's pretty much it. And Ronaldinho, I thought it was Ronaldinho with the shot. I could have sworn I saw that pop up, but anyway, wasn't counted apparently. Walter Samuel, player of the first half really. We'll see if it gets better in the second. If we can at least get some goals, maybe that would be nice. It looks as if Sloths are at least trying early on. Santa Cruz failing to score there. Kennedy is creating a little bit, trying to get some of his teammates into the game and trying to create something at least. But it's been a quiet second half as well. Oh, there's a red card. Oh, it's Yepes, so it's another red card for the Sloths. Let's see in terms of position. Patsasoglu should probably go down there. Don't think we really want to risk playing with one at the very end, so we'll do that. Taibi with a good couple of saves there. Oh, and it's Hernan Crespo. Hernan Crespo, 10 man. I won't say against the run of play because it kind of was a little bit towards the end there, but certainly against expectation after Yepes got sent off. I didn't see that one coming, but Hernan Crespo is the guy who seals the deal for Sloths and picks up 3 points for them, and I think that moves them above that moves Sloths into 9th position. They jump above Dragons with that win after Dragons had that poor result earlier tonight. So yeah, Sloths up to 9th. Who would have thought that with the start of the season to the season they had? Yeah, I mean they had more possession. I won't say it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty, but Michael Carrick obviously coming in doing a brilliant job there. Man of the match performance for him. 8s and 9s across the board. No one really giving anything away. I guess that's also a way of winning. Just keeping it tight, not giving anything away. Good pass completion. Yeah, a very very solid team performance here. Andres de Alessandro. Again, as mentioned before, perhaps better suited to that right-hand side. Certainly judging by his position last time out, or his performance last time out. Solis only getting a 7. Obviously, he'll have Solari and Simeone back from injury. Yepes with a red card, so that will be interesting to see who he puts in place of him. Taibi again with a strong performance, picking up that 8, captain's role as well, and an assist and a man of the match award for Michael Carrick. Who would have seen that one coming? Brilliant performance from Sloss in the last 90 seconds of the game. A little bit so-so for the rest of it. Hooligans. Yeah, I mean they're just struggling. They're just struggling, unfortunately. The players aren't delivering for the manager, Rocky Santa Cruz, who's obviously joined this season from Ardsley, was it? Oh, I can't click on that. Who's obviously joined this season, has not really done anything. Dudu, who came in, stuff was expected of him. Good stats, young player. He's been poor, just 6s every time he's played. Ronaldinho gets an 8, but he's so far from what he can be with the stats that he's got. I mean, not a single assist all season. That's terribly disappointing for him as well. It's unfortunate for Hooligans. They are down at the bottom. They stay on 24. They can still be caught by Swindon over the last 2 rounds. But yeah, sadly for Hooligans, another poor performance from especially their front players, and that's what continues to let them down. And that's where they are. That's why they are where they are in 13th, unfortunately. Anyway, we have Astra against Ardsley. Is that the last one? We have had Bolton, Hornets, Midlothian Park. I believe this is the last game of the evening. Astra with one change. Yeah, Terry coming in at the back. That's fine. Let's see if we can get through this in record time and get through to the last game. We can. So Astra Athletic, a bunch of changes here in terms of personnel. He's got Lampard, Rui Costa and Boy lining up in the middle, Guilherme and Nicolau up at the front. Vogel, Mild, Zanetti, Mazzarati and Giuliano make up the back three. Let's have a quick look at what else we can do for Astra, if there's anything I've missed. I'm just double checking the tactic. Mild, Zanetti, etc. Yeah, no, it looks all good for Astra Athletic. Let's have a look at what. Yeah, I'm not sure what's enforced those changes. I mean, I know that Alf likes to keep it 100% fitness, but it's obviously not been great for them recently in terms of results. So we'll see if this changes things. He's obviously putting his faith in Guilherme and Nicolau to score the goals. Will it happen? We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see who does something for Astra tonight if they're going to reach the dizzy heights of the playoffs. In terms of RC Celtic, John Terry comes in. They obviously had that good result against Bolton last time out, 1-0. Bit of a champing, but that's what they did early on this season. Yeah, it should be okay for Ardsley. I mean, with everyone else winning, they're under pressure from the teams below them, but they are on 40 points. It should be more than enough, and we'll see what they can do against Astra tonight. Has picked up for Ardsley obviously recently after a bit of a poor run. Let's have a look and see how we start. Not with a bunch of goals. 20 minutes in. There have been changes obviously for both sides. Yeah, Nikiforenko with a chance there. Rakoba. Are they chances or are they just people passing the ball around? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, there's Nikiforenko, so there are chances, and there are definitely shots on goals. Nikiforenko with a goal for Ardsley, putting them on 1-0, their favourite scoreline this season. Let's have a quick look at how that was. Yeah, I mean, apologies for the silence, but it was a little bit dead. I mean, Astra obviously completely dominant in the air, but with nothing to show for it. Apart from that, fairly even. In terms of possession, in the middle of the park, Astra have the ball, but maybe a bit of a disconnect between the back 10, 8 or 9 or whatever many players there are and the two strikers. We'll have to see. Not really. I mean, they are getting the ball. They're just not really doing a whole lot with it in terms of getting good shots on. Nicolau doing okay. He's doing well in the air, winning a bunch of headers. Picks up an 8. Everyone else struggling a little bit. Yeah, I mean, Alf obviously wasn't getting the results he wanted out of the formation that he'd always played with, the kind of Alf old formation with the two AMCs, but this is what 4 or 5, maybe 6 games in a row now where it's not really clicking for Astra Athletic. I won't really single any players out. They've all done a sort of a half-assed kind of job, apart from Nicolau maybe, who's done a half-assed job apart from winning 4 headers. Astra Athletic, they're grinding out the 1-0s. Are they going to grind their way into a Super League final? They could definitely be on their way. Patrick Vieira getting the assist, Nikiforenko with a goal. Get Nikiforenko scoring, keep Patrick Vieira playing well. 14 tackles, 10 of them key in the first half, or 2 of them key in the first half. Good performance from him. Landreau good in goal. I mean, they're a difficult side to beat, as Ardsley Celtic. But let's see in the second half if Astra can turn things around, if they can get that aerial domination going and impress people with that, or if it continues to be all about Ardsley and grinding out the 1-0s. such a strange period they went through, Ardsley, with having such poor results after being incredibly solid at the back. 0-0s, 1-0s across the board for the first half of the season, then went on a terrible run, but it seems that they've started picking up that form again. Unfortunate for them, Milito picks up an injury. Obviously got their ready-made replacement there, so let's see if... oh, it was a ready-made replacement, but it's all gone it's all gone wrong for Ardsley right at the end. Christian Kivu picks up that injury. I believe Saeed is probably going to be better put down there. Volodinkov. This has not gone well for Ardsley Celtic. Could Asta turn this around and get all 3 points? They can. Nicolau with possibly the winning goal. Ibrahim Saeed loses his mind. Loses his mind and attacks someone or does something. I'm not sure if this even makes sense to... either way, I mean, 5 minutes left. It's probably too little too late. Let's see. Or can they do it? No, they cannot. My goodness, what a disastrous last 10 minutes for Ardsley Celtic. Milito injured, Mild scores, Christian Chibu injured, Saeed sent off, and Nicolau gets the winner for Astor Athletic. My goodness, what a dramatic finish to the evening of the Super League. 9 shots, 8 on target, 7 and 4 for Ardsley. So overall, perhaps deserved for Astor Athletic. So close to grinding out and another 1-0 win, Ardsley Celtic, and it all just falls to pieces in the last 10 minutes. Incredibly unfortunate for them. Astor Athletic, very, very strong performance. Again, the attacking players perhaps not at their peak, but Nicolau steps in and scores the goal that gets them the victory. Håkan Mild, for some reason, is up there as well, winning another header probably. Yeah, strong aerial domination. I'm not sure if they were playing for that, Astor, but it's definitely what they got. Again, in the second half, they're keeping that up. Good performance from Lehmann in goal. Zanetti with the assist. Vogel gets a 9. Materazzi, Giuliano, Mild, all very good, solid defensive performances. In terms of the midfield, if he's to go further in the playoffs, if he does make the playoffs, then that obviously needs to improve. But very good to see Nicolau in with the goals and Astor finally picking up a win. Although it did require a complete collapse from Ardsley Celtic for Astor to get the injury for Milito, injury for Christian Kibu, who came in for him, and Saeed picks up the red card in the space of 7 minutes. I don't really know what to say. I'm not sure Hodgie will know what to say either. He won't be particularly happy, but that's how it finishes. Landro does an okay job in goal. Patrick Vieira, of course, picks up a yellow card, an 8. They are the 2 good players. Everyone else seems to kind of lose it a little bit right at the end. Morientes losing a bunch of headers, still getting a 7 and a couple of key passes, but not a great game for him. But yeah, what a finish to that game. And yeah, that concludes it. And here we have the results for the evening. Obviously, as we've just seen, Astor beating Ardsley 2-1 in that shocking finale. Valen moving up to third with that win over Bolton. Hoddesdon Hornets beating the league leaders 4-2. BTEC taking a 2-1 win away at Midlothian, and they remain in 12th due to results around them not going their way. Palmerton Icos in 5th, Midlothian down in 6th now. We've got Sloths in 9th after that win over Hooligans, and Chotley keeping up the pressure. They're in 7th. Let's do this first. Let's have a quick look at how the table as it stands. No one picks up a Q. Not a single team picks up a Q tonight with only 2 games to play. They're still theoretically from 8th to 3rd. There's still a theoretical chance for all of them to either get in or drop out. Obviously, with Valen's goal difference, it's not going to happen. So they are all but mathematically guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, because I don't think Cannons or Astor are gonna catch plus 18 in the last couple of games. Ardsley on 40, Palmerton Icos on 38, Midlothian on 38. All sides are definitely in it now. Midlothian don't have the goal difference in their advantage. They need wins and they need them desperately. Otherwise, Chudley Cannons are more than likely to have a bit of a bit of a go at them. Panathinaikos as well, they have the goal difference in their favor. Obviously, with a win next time out, they could all but mathematically secure it, just because the poor goal differences of the teams below them. But yeah, this is going to be very, very exciting at the end. We could potentially see the 40-point Palmer rule go out the window. I think we need at least 41 to be guaranteed, because that could potentially be Chudley's point total, and that would be enough to see them pick a place in the playoffs. Very, very exciting times in the Super League. I hope you enjoyed this evening's show. It was very, very interesting, especially right at the end. We'll have a look at the fixtures just before we go. I think everyone is waiting. If they don't know already, I think everyone is waiting to see who Midlothian and Chudley Cannons and Panathinaikos and Astra are playing. Will there be any kind of like inter-dependent results there? Let's have a look and see what we've got coming up. Panathinaikos are away to Ardsley. That is a tricky trip for them. Chudley Cannons take on Bolton Phoenix. That is going to be difficult. Midlothian are away to Dragons. Not an easy game for them. And Astra have a very, very tricky trip to Valen United. All of the 4 teams involved in that playoff race have very, very difficult games, I would say. Midlothian perhaps on paper slightly shading it in the way that they play Dragons, who should be a poorer side theoretically than Ardsley, than Bolton, than Valen United, but very, very tricky games. And yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see who picks up those places there. Churchtown play Swindon. They can obviously put themselves in a in a dominant position, I believe, securing the regular season title if they do beat Swindon Devils. We'll have to see what happens with that. We've got Hooligans at home to Hoddesdon Hornets. That's another interesting game. And Sloths could potentially catch. Can they potentially catch the teams in front of them? Let's see where they're at. Sloths could, in theory, finish 7th. I'm just putting it out there. Sloths could finish 7th. I'm just putting it out there. BTIC could still finish 9th. You know, there's still a lot to play for. There's honor at stake. There's playoff places at stake. There's a league championship at stake. Sorry, the regular season championship at stake. It's going to be an exciting last couple of weeks of the regular season in the Super League. I do hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and I hope you will turn in again next Sunday. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.